Um, my name is Lucy. I am the head of content at Strategyzer, and my job is to make innovation accessible for all. So, one of my key roles is coming up with ways of making innovation, very murky, ambiguous, complex innovation, simple, practical, and visual. And we do that through tools, through the different tools that I'll be showing you guys today. And hopefully, and my goal is that I want to make everyone an innovator. I truly believe that it is a skill set anyone can learn. It takes practice, many, many hours of practice. Some might even say 10,000 hours of practice. But I really do believe that this is a skill that anyone can learn and really life skills that they can develop and take across industries, across organizations as well. So, firstly, let's look at what the innovation process actually looks like. So Tendai already showed this to you. Innovation is really about how do you take an idea and turn it into a valuable business? How do you turn it into a value proposition that people want and embed it in a business that can scale? And this is what the trajectory typically looks like. It's very ambiguous, very murky right at the beginning. There's many, many different ways it can go because the path is unknown and it's unpaved. And so then this is what it typically looks like. Right at the beginning of it, it's all about inventing. The world is your canvas. You can do whatever you want. But without those constraints, there's also many, many different ways you can fail. And the history is paved with startups that didn't work for many different reasons. But once you've gone through that murk, once you've become clear about the direction of the business, where it can go, who are your customers, how you're going to make money, how you're going to scale it and build it, then it's more about improving. It's about constant reinvention and iteration of your business model to make it stronger and more resilient. And the key difference here is the amount of risk and uncertainty of this journey. At the beginning, we're inventing, risk and uncertainty is at its highest. You don't know what you don't know. And so as you go through this process, the toolkit that I'm going to show you, the main goal is to try and reduce the risk and uncertainty of your idea. And we built a process called the design test loop to help you do exactly that. And it goes like this. You go through many, many iterations of design and testing your idea. And over time, hopefully, you start slowly reducing the risk and uncertainty of your idea so that the murky components become clearer and clearer, and your path of which way you should take become clearer and clearer as well. And this is what I'm going to take you through today. A quick snapshot of all the different tools to help you gain certainty and clarity around your business idea, to help you move from an idea to a validated business case. For business design, it's around ideating, prototyping, and assessing the strengths and weaknesses of your business model. For testing, it's all about acting like a scientist, like really distilling and trying to find rigor behind the process and trying to find some clarity with the unknown and the uncertainty and extract everything almost like a scientific process. You extract hypotheses, you run experiments to test all of your assumptions, and hopefully you learn a thing or two about which way your business should go. And for me, innovation is really about this, building a repeatable process to help you create value for your customers and your business as well. As corporate innovators, you really have to have your eye on the both. So let's unpack this a little bit. So when it comes to business design, firstly, ideate. So we will typically go through a workshop setting where we try to get people to come up with as many different ideas as they can. Good ones, bad ones, it doesn't matter. And we use trigger questions to help them do this. And the idea is that you really want to open up your mind instead of really focusing on the narrow. Think about it of all the different possibilities. Then from there, you start distilling and seeing, well, what can we actually build? And can we actually build a prototype? And all of this is done on paper. And the idea is that you then use our canvases to help design something on paper as well, so that everyone around the table knows what you're talking about. We use the value proposition and business model canvas, and a tool that hopefully most of you are familiar with. But I'll quickly take you through the power of these tools and what they can actually do. Starting off with the business model canvas. You have the 9 building blocks of the business model canvas, and it's a very quick snapshot of your business and how you're creating value. And we built them out into 9 different building blocks because we've done this for over a decade now, and typically most of your business, all of your business can fit within nine building blocks. Firstly, how are you creating value for the customers you want to target? What is the relationship you want to build with them? What are the channels you're connecting with them? And of course, very importantly, how you're going to make money and make your business sustainable. What are the key activities and resources you need to do to fulfill this value proposition? And you can't do it alone. Who are the key partners you're going to talk to? And what is the cost structure? Like, can you make this viable? Can you make this business sustainable? And all of this is a quick snapshot and a visual, simple, practical tool to help you tell the story of how you create, deliver, and capture value for your organization. And we've done this for a while now, and typically this is what the idea will look like. Everyone gets really excited about putting business models and sticky notes everywhere. But typically they walk out like this because people are complex, ideas are complex, and how you create value for them is also complex. And so typically this is what it looks like. Your value proposition, the things you want to do, it ends up being very varied. And there's many different ways you think you can create value for your customer, which is why we zoomed in on the value proposition and the customer segment. And we realized by extracting these out that we're able to create a tool, the value proposition canvas, to tell the story of how you're creating value for your customers. And that in itself is a separate tool we came up with. So once you've done this, we also came up with the patterns library. So typically in workshops, people will say, well, it's really hard for me to come up with ideas. You know, I'm not an innovator. I don't do design thinking. I don't know that much about business model thinking. So what can help me? And so we came up with the patterns library to help you do that, exactly that. And then once you've designed it, well, you also want to get a sense of, is it any good? Like, is my business model, the design, even at the design space, is it any good? Can it be resilient? Can it be disrupted? And so we came up with an assessment tool to help you evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of your business model. The good thing is everyone has this. So the book you have in front of you, The Invincible Company, has exactly this. A compendium of all the distilled business models that we've seen, the best around the world, so that you can use it almost as a design inspiration book to see and refer to these business models and to hopefully help you with that design process for yourself as well. And so the benefits of having these patterns is that we really wanted to distill what business model innovation looks like to make it a little bit more practical and visual, so it's a little less murky, ambiguous for everyone. You can use the trigger questions in them to help you ideate. You can use the assessment questions to evaluate the design of your business models. And lastly, the case studies hopefully can be an inspiration to you and your teams as well. So coming back to this, once you've designed, once you've evaluated, then you as a team can decide. Do you want to keep ideating? Do you want to see if you can make your business model even stronger? But typically, we like to say to the teams, go out of the building and talk to your customers. That is the most important thing you can do as an innovator, because at the end of the day, no matter how pretty your design is, how superior you think it is, these are all just assumptions. You and your colleagues sat around a table and came up with something on paper, and there's no way at this point you are going to know if it's going to work. So the best thing you can do is go out and test and really speak to your customers and see if you are creating value for them. And we came up with a process for that as well. So you can extract all of these assumptions, make it really explicit so everyone around the table knows what it is you're talking about and what are the potential risks of your business model idea. You extract it, you prioritize, and you try and refine it so then you can go out and test. You then come up with a set of experiments to do exactly that. So business model experiments. You design very quickly on paper, and then you go and run these experiments as well and test it in the real world. But the most important thing out of this whole process is making sure that you're learning from the experiments. Oftentimes, time and time again, we see teams that get caught up in the experimentation process. because it's quick, it's agile, it's fast, it's very different to what they do. But that's only a means to an end. The eye, you have to keep your eye on the prize, and the prize is learning through the experiments what it is that impacts your business idea. And the most important thing you want to learn is, are you really de-risking your idea? And then this then helps you really identify if you're moving from an idea to a business. So this is what we mean by design test loop. It's like a Mobius band. It's a continuous iteration of back and forward and back and forward. But quite often people can get caught up in that loop because it is continuous. So then how do you know? How do you know if you're getting any closer into de-risking your idea? How do you know if you're moving away from the unknown and the uncertainty into something that's a little bit more straightforward? And so we came up with a scorecard to be able to evaluate your business based on the evidence you're able to collect. This is really, really important as well. And again, it's a way for us to move away from the ambiguity, uncertainty around innovation and bring some clarity and direction and rigor to the process as well. The scorecard evaluates the evidence you've collected and give you a snapshot of whether you're moving closer towards strong evidence in the market and from the market as well. And this is how we actually evaluate teams. So a quick illustration of how all of these things come together. I've shown you the concept, a very quick snapshot of the tools. Then the question is, well, how do you actually apply this? What does this actually look like in the real world? So I'll take you through a quick illustration of a team that went through this process. This team is from a large pharmaceutical multinational company. And the team really wanted to create an app to help parents in Central America build greater awareness and adoption around a particular vaccine that they're rolling out. So the vaccine was already out there, but the adoption was really low, and they assumed the awareness was really low as well. And this particular team was tasked with, okay, building an app to help resolve that. And so this is what their business model, a very light touch version of their business model, looked like. They wanted to target parents in Central America, and the value they wanted to create for them was greater awareness of where and when the vaccines were available. And of course, their revenue stream is selling of the vaccine. So then the next thing they did, and we guided them through, is let's really extract that out. Let's really try and understand what are the biggest risks around your business idea. So bear in mind, the context is that this team had already started the process of building the app because they assumed that the most critical hypotheses was already validated, that the biggest assumption around their business model was already set in stone, that they've decided already that they were going to build an app to try and address that. And the biggest assumption laid in the pain of their customer segment. They believe that their customers didn't know about vaccine scheduling. The parents weren't aware of when to give the vaccine to their kids. And also, they didn't know where to go to get the vaccine. And what they realized through very quickly, within a couple of weeks, talking to parents, running a dozen or so interviews, is that they were absolutely wrong. Every single one of the parents that they've spoken to said that we know how to get it. Like, we're not idiots. We know how to take care of my kids, and I know when to give them the vaccine. It's just too expensive. And that was a real aha moment for them. They already started the process of building this app, okay? And what they realized very quickly within a couple of weeks of this process is that nobody actually wanted it. The app, not the vaccine. And so what this made them realize is that they had to go back to the drawing board. They had to go back to the prototyping and really understand how they can reposition the value proposition, which is now affordable vaccine access. This is what their customer segments really care about. After a little bit of digging, they realized then, well, it's actually a distribution center challenge. They had set a price, they had put it on the market, but they actually had no control of how the distributors spread it around Central America were actually charging. And they realized very quickly that they were charging a premium for the vaccine. This made them realize that they needed to talk to a key partner, which was the distribution centers. And so the project very much shifted. Then it became about, well, how do we collaborate more closely with these centers? How do we talk to them and negotiate with them as vendors, enable to help us lower our costs and give greater access of the vaccines to our customer segments? So I'll wrap up really quickly on two important lessons that we learned here. Number one, innovation doesn't just belong to innovators. The team that came with this idea were actually mainly marketers. They had a marketing and communication challenge. That's what they thought. And so it was the innovator lead who actually brought this idea into this program to say, okay, you think you need to build an app? Let's really test it out. Let's really unpack it and see if that's the case. And so innovation doesn't just belong to innovators. The project started off with a marketing team, and then it actually shifted into a team of vendor management because of how the business model ended up evolving. And so this is what I wanted to show you in the importance of these tools, the capacity for change in your organization. It doesn't just belong to innovators. It can be applicable across the organization and really create value for different departments and business units. And lastly, success looks different in innovation. On paper, if you look at this idea, it completely failed. They didn't build anything, they didn't create anything, nothing was put out into the marketplace. But if you flip it and say, did they create value for the customer? Yes. They try to make the vaccine cheaper and more accessible to all of their customer segments. Did they create value for the organization? Absolutely. They saved the company $800,000 by not developing this tool, this app. And so if you look at the return on investment, you can't look at this alone. You really have to think about how you're creating value for the organization. Thank you.